Alright, so you know when you do the crusty bits technique on your jelly plate, or you do the contrasting colors where you roll over your stencil, or just normal jelly printing, sometimes your stencils will get covered. This one's not as covered, but some of them, it's time for them to take a bath. Normally I don't worry about it, but after a certain point it starts to interfere with the stencil. So I had a non-US subscriber who can't get Murphy's oil, which is in this tub right here, ask what else could you use if I had any other solutions. Well, I went ahead and went online and looked, and I did find a product that Amazon carries that's available in the UK called 151 oil soap, which is supposed to be kind of comparable to Murphy's oil, I believe. But that got me, I went in the kitchen and got a few things. So here's Murphy's oil, and all of these have hot water originally, a little bit of soap, and this one has Murphy's oil, this one has olive oil in the middle, and this one had baby oil. And I just put a small amount of soap, a small amount, maybe 1/8 of a cup, in each container with some dirty stencils. And the stencils were all kind of relatively the same. Now here's the Murphy's oil, and you can see that it just very easily slides off. These have been soaking since this morning. This one's red, so the stencil's red. This one's a clear stencil. And you can see that it just pulls off. You can do a soft rag if you... It's going to be messy, but it comes off pretty easily. And I'm sure the longer you let it soak, the easier it's going to fall off. You want to be more careful on the delicate. And I would definitely rinse some with just plain soap and water when you were done, so they weren't oily. But that's clean like it was new. Okay. So that's the Murphy's oil. Probably could have put a little bit more Murphy's oil and they could soak a little longer. This is the olive oil. And it doesn't slide as easy, but with just my nail, it's just pulling right off. This stencil is made out of a yellow plastic, so it's not going to go clear. And you can see I just pulled that off with very little effort. So I have to say that if you didn't have access to Murphy's oil, just plain olive oil would work. And when I was looking up on the internet, I saw a lot of comparable recipes that talked about olive oil soap or castor oil soap. So I have to say that, you know, it's readily available. Just buy a cheap brand. This wasn't an expensive brand of olive oil or anything. And you might even get better results if you put a little bit more soap and oil than I put in. I just, like I said, put a small amount of each, like a 1/16 to 1/8 of a cup. I didn't measure it. And it comes up pretty easily. Now this is a more delicate stencil right here. And certain paints I find don't come off. The PBOs do not come off as easily as, say, your craft paints. I tend to use a lot of metallics, and I think the mica powder in them. But that was a green stencil, so it's actually straight down to the stencil. All right, and so the last one, let me move this in so you can see a little better. The last one is the baby oil. I will say that the baby oil is not working. It's really tough. It's not sliding, where the olive oil was just sliding. The Murphy's oil is the best. So even for in Europe, if you couldn't get the Murphy's oil, I would probably look into that 151 oil, and I will put a link. It was on Amazon. I will put a link to it in the little description box below. But like I said, I'll continue to use the Murphy's oil. I use it to clean my brushes as well. And especially like your glue brush, if you just let it soak in hot, usually I put the Murphy's oil down in the bottom of a glass container and I work it into my brush and let that kind of sit for a little while, and then I add hot soapy water to it and let it sit overnight, couple days. Usually I'll try to get it where it's the water line is just barely covering my brush, so I'm not soaking a whole bunch of the brush. But given time, all of that will just peel off and disappear. I would have thrown this brush away a long time ago if it wasn't for the Murphy's oil. I have salvaged gesso in brushes. Like this one needs to be done again. But it's good stuff. I think olive oil might work just as well as an alternative option. Thanks for watching.